Chapter 3 Gold Mines. This was precisely the visit from Mitya of which Grushenka had told Rakitin with such fear. She was then expecting her messenger and was very glad that Mitya had not come either the day before or that day, hoping that perchance, God willing, he will not come home before her departure, when suddenly he descended upon her. The rest we know. In order to get him off her hands, she persuaded him at once to take her to Kuzma Samsonov's, where she said it was terribly necessary for her to go to count the money. And when Mitya promptly took her, she made him promise, as she said goodbye to him at Kuzma's gate, to come for her after 11 and take her home again. Mitya was also pleased with this order. If she's sitting at Kuzma's, she won't go to Fyodor Pavlovitch. If only she's not lying, he added at once. But from what he could see, she was not lying. His jealousy was precisely of such a sort that separated from the beloved woman. He at once invented all kinds of horrors about what was happening with her, and how she had gone and betrayed him. But running back to her, shaken, crushed, convinced, irretrievably that she had managed to betray him with the first look at her face, at the gay, laughing, tender face of this woman, his spirits would at once revive. He would at once lose all suspicion and with joyful shame reproach himself for his jealousy. Having accompanied Grushenka, he rushed home. Oh, he still somehow had to do so much that day, but at least he felt relieved. Only I must find out quickly from Samradjakov whether anything happened last night, whether, God forbid, she went to Fyodor Pavlovitch, raced through his head, and so, in just the time it took him to run home, jealousy had already begun stirring again in his restless heart. Jealousy. Othello is not jealous, he is trustful, Pushkin observed. And this one observation already testifies to the remarkable depth of our great poet's mind. Othello's soul is simply shattered and his whole world view clouded because his ideal is destroyed. Othello will not hide, spy, peep. He is trustful. On the contrary, he had to be led, prompted, roused with great effort to make him even think of betrayal. A truly jealous man is not like that. It is impossible to imagine all the shame and moral degradation a jealous man can tolerate without the least remorse. And it is not that they are all trite and dirty souls. On the contrary, it is possible to have a lofty heart, to love purely, to be full of self-sacrifice, and at the same time to hide under tables, to bribe the meanest people, and live with the nastiest filth of spying and eavesdropping. Othello could in no way be reconciled with betrayal. Not that he could not forgive, but he could not be reconciled. Though his soul was gentle and innocent as a babe's, not so the truly jealous man. It is hard to imagine what some jealous men can tolerate and be reconciled to, and what they can forgive. Jealous men forgive sooner than anyone else, and all women know it. The jealous man, having first made a terrible scene, of course, can and will very promptly forgive. For example, a nearly proven betrayal, the embraces and kisses he has seen himself. If, for example, at the same time he can somehow be convinced that this was the last time and that his rival will disappear from the moment on, that he will go to the end of the earth, or that he himself will take her away somewhere, to some place where this terrible rival will never come. Of course, the reconciliation will only last an hour, because even if the rival has indeed disappeared, tomorrow he will invent another, a new one, and become jealous of this new one. And one may ask, what is the good of a love that must constantly be spied on, and what is the worth of a love that needs to be guarded so intensely? But that is something that truly jealous will never understand, though at the same time there happen indeed to be a lofty hearts among them. It is also remarkable that these same lofty-hearted men, while standing in some sort of a closet, eavesdropping and spying, though they understand clearly in their lofty hearts all the shame they have gotten into of their own will, nevertheless, at least for that moment, while standing in that closet, will not feel any pangs of remorse. Mitya's jealousy disappeared at the sight of Grushenka, and for a moment he became trustful and noble, and even despised himself for his bad feelings. But this meant only that this love for this woman consisted in something much higher than he himself supposed, and not in passion alone, not merely in that curve of the body he had explained to Alyosha. But when Grushenka disappeared, Mitya at once began again to suspect in her all the baseness and perfidy of betrayal, and for that he felt no pangs of remorse. And so jealousy was again seething in him. He had to hurry in any case. First of all, he needed at least a little money to get by on. The previous day's 9 ruble had been almost entirely spent on the trip, and without money, as everyone knows, one cannot take a step. But that morning in the wagon, along with his new plan, he had also thought of how to find some money to get by on. He had a pair of fine dueling pistols with cartridges, and if he had not pawned them yet, it was because he loved them more than anything else he owned. Some time before in the metropolis, he had struck up a slight acquaintance with a certain young official and had learned somehow, also in the tavern, that this official, a bachelor of no small means, had a passion for weapons, bought pistols, revolvers, daggers, hung them on the wall, showed them to his acquaintance, boasted of them, was expert at explaining the workings of the revolver, loading, firing, and so on. Without thinking twice, Mitya went straight to him and offered to pawn the pistols to him for 10 rubles. The delighted official tried to persuade him to sell them outright, but Mitya would not agree. So the man handed him 10 rubles, declaring that he would not think of accepting any interest. They parted friends. Mitya was in a hurry. He raced off to behind Fyodor Pavlovich to his gazebo in order to send quickly for Semedjakov. In this way again, the fact emerged that only 3 or 4 hours before a certain incident of which I shall speak below, Mitya did not have a kopeck, and pawned his dearest possession for 10 rubles, whereas 3 hours later he suddenly had 1,000 in his hands. But I anticipate. At Maria Kondratyevna, next door to Fyodor Pavlovich, the news awaited him of Samedrikov's illness, which struck and dismayed him greatly. He listened to the story of the fall into the cellar, then of the falling fit, the doctor's visit, Fyodor Pavlovich's concern. He was also interested to learn that his brother Ivan Fedorovich had gone off to Moscow that morning. He must have passed through Volova ahead of me, Dmitri Fyodorovich thought. But Semedjakov troubled him terribly. What now? Who will keep watch? Who will bring me word? Greedily he began inquiring of the women whether they had noticed anything the previous evening. They knew very well what he was trying to find out and reassured him completely. No one had come. Ivan Fyodorovich had spent the night there. Everything was in perfect order. Mitya began to think. Undoubtedly he had to be on watch today. But where? Here or at Samsonov's gate? Both here and there he decided depending on the situation. But meanwhile, what faced him now was that morning's plan. The new and this time a certain plan, which he had thought up in the wagon, the carrying out of which could not be put off any longer. Mitya decided to sacrifice an hour to it. In an hour I'll settle everything, find out everything, and then, first of all to Samsonov's house, to see whether Grushenka is there, then immediately back here, stay here till 11, then again to Samsonov to take her home. That was what he decided. He flew home, washed, combed his hair, brushed his clothes, got dressed, and went to see Madame Kokolakov. Alas, his plan lay there. He had made up his mind to borrow the 3,000 from this lady. Moreover, suddenly, somehow, unexpectedly, he had acquired a remarkable certainty that she would not refuse him. It may be wondered why, given such certainty, he had not gone there first, to his own society, so to speak, but had gone instead to Samsonov, a man of an alien caste, with whom he did not even know how to speak. But the thing was that for the past month he had almost broken off relations with Madame Kokolakov, and even before then had been only slightly acquainted with her, and, moreover, he knew very well she could not understand him. The lady had detested him for the beginning, simply because he was Katerina Ivanova's fiancé, whereas she, for some reason, suddenly wanted Katerina Ivanova to drop him and marry the dear, chivalrously educated Ivan Fyodorovitch, who had such beautiful manners. Mitya's manners she detested. Mitya's even laughed at her and had said of her once that this lady isn't bold and lively as she is uneducated. And so that morning in the wagon, he had been illumined by a most brilliant idea. If she is so much against my marrying Katerina Ivanova, and against is to such a degree, he knew it was almost to the point of hysterics, then why should she deny me the 3,000 now, when this money would precisely enable me to leave Katya and clear out of here forever? These spoiled high-up ladies, if they take it into their heads to want something, will spare nothing to get their way. Besides, she's so rich. Mitya reasoned. As for the plan itself, it was all the same as before, that is, the offer of his rights to Chermashnya, but now with no commercial purpose, as with Samsonov the day before, not trying to tempt this lady like Samsonov the day before with the prospect of picking up twice the sum, about 6 or 7,000, but merely as an honorable pledge for the borrowed money. Mitya went into ecstasies, developing his new ideas, but that is what always happened to him in all his undertakings, all his sudden decisions. He gave himself passionately to every new idea. Nevertheless, as he stepped onto the porch of Madame Kokolakov's house, he suddenly felt a chill of horror run down his spine. Only at the second did he realize fully, and now with mathematical clarity, that this was his last hope. That if this should fall through, there was nothing left in the world but to kill and rob someone for 3,000, and that's all. It was 7:30 when he rang the bell. At first things seemed to smile on him. He was received at once with remarkable promptness. As soon as he announced, "Just as if she were expecting me," flashed through Mitya's mind, and then suddenly, as soon as he was shown into the drawing room, the hostess all but ran in and declared directly that she had been expecting him. "I was expecting you. I could not even think you would come to me, you must agree, and yet I was expecting you. Just marvel at my instinct, Dmitri Fyodorovitch. All morning I felt certain you would come to this day." "This is indeed amazing, madame," Mitya uttered, sitting down clumsily. "But I have come on extremely important business. The most important business for me, that is, madame, for me alone, and I'm in a hurry." "I know you have the most important business, Dmitri Fyodorovitch. Here there is no question of presentiments, no retrograde pretense to miracles. Have you heard about the elder Joshua? This is mathematics. You could not fall to come after all that's happened with Katerina Ivanova. You could not. You simply could not. It's mathematics. The realism of actual life, madame, that's what it is. Allow me, however, to explain. Realism, precisely, Dmitri Fyodorovitch. I am all for realism now. I have been taught a good lesson about miracles. Have you heard that Josima died?" "No, madame, this is the first I have heard of it." Mitya was a little surprised. Alyosha's image flashed through his mind. "Last night, and just imagine." "Madame," Mitya interrupted, "I can imagine only that I am in a most desperate position, and that if you do not help me, everything will fall through. And I will fall through first of all. Forgive the triviality of the expression, but I feel hot. I am in a fever." I know you are in a fever. I know everything, and you could hardly be in any other state of spirit. And wherever you may say, I know everything beforehand. I took your fate into consideration long ago. Dmitri Fyodorovitch, I have been following it, studying it. Oh, believe me, I am an experienced doctor of souls, Dmitri Fyodorovitch. Madame, if you are an experienced doctor, I am an experienced patient. Mitya forced himself into pleasantry. And I have a feeling that if you have been following my fate, as you say, you will help it in its reunion. But for that, allow me finally to explain the plan with which I have ventured to come, and what I expect from you. I have come, madame. Don't explain, it's secondary. As for helping, you will not be the first I have helped. Dmitri Fedorovitch, you have probably heard about my cousin, Madame Belmasov. Her husband was ruined. He fell through, as you so characteristically expressed it. Dmitri Fedorovitch, and what did I do? I sent him into horse breeding, and now he is flourishing. Do you have any notion of horse breeding, Dmitri? Not the slightest, madame. Oh, madame, not the slightest. Mitya exclaimed in nervous impatience, and even rose from his seat. I only beg you, madame, to listen me. Allow me just 2 minutes to speak freely so that I can first of all explain everything to you. The whole project with which I have come. Besides, I am short of time. I am in a terrible hurry. Mitya shouted hysterically, feeling that she was about to start talking again and hoping to outshout her. I've come in despair, in the last degree of despair, to ask you to lend me money. 3,000, but to lend it on the surest pledge, madame, on the surest security. Only let me explain. All of that later. Later, Madame Kokolakov waved her hand at him in turn. And whatever you are going to say, I know it's all beforehand. I have already told you that you are asking for a certain sum. You need 3,000, but I'll give you more. Infinitely more. I'll save you. Dmitri Fedorovitch, but you must do as I say. Mitya reared up from his seat again. Madame, can you possibly be so kind? He cried with extreme feeling. Oh Lord, you've saved me. You are saving a man from a violent death, madame, from a bullet. My eternal gratitude. I'll give you more, infinitely more than 3,000. Madame Kokolakov cried, gazing at Mitya's rapture with a beaming smile. Infinitely? But I don't need so much. All that's necessary is the fatal 3,000, and I for my part am prepared to guarantee the sum to you with infinite gratitude. And I've come to offer you a plan that— Enough, Dmitri, it's said and done. Madame Kokolakov spoke abruptly with virtuous triumph of a benefactress. I promise to save you, and I'll save you. I'll save you as I did Belmasov. What do you think about gold mines, Dmitri Fedorovitch? Gold mines, madame? I've never thought anything about them. But I have thoughts for you. I've thought and thought about it. I've been watching you for a whole month with that in mind. I've looked at you 100 times as you walked by, saying to myself, here is an energetic man who must go to the mines. I even studied your gait and decided, this man will find many mines. From my gait, madame? Mitya smiled. And why not from your gait? What, do you deny that it's possible to tell a man's character from his gait, Dmitri Fedorovitch? Natural science confirms it. Oh, I'm a realist now, Dmitri. From this day on, after all that story in the monastery which upset me so, I'm a complete realist and want to throw myself into practical activity. I'm cured. Enough, as Turgenev said. But madame, this 3,000 which you have so generously promised to lend me— You'll get it, Dmitri. Madame Kokolakov at once cut him short. You may consider it as good as in your pocket, and not 3,000 but 3,000,000. Dmitri, and in no time, I shall tell you your idea. You will discover mines, make millions, return and become an active figure, and you will stir us, leading us towards the good. Should everything be left to the Jews? You'll build buildings, start various enterprises. You'll help the poor, and they will bless you. This is the age of railroads, Dmitri. You will become known, and it's indispensable to the Ministry of Finance, which is such need now. The decline of the paper ruble allows me no sleep. Dmitri, few know the side of me. Madame, Dmitri again interrupted with a certain uneasy foreboding. Perhaps I will really and truly follow your advice, your sound advice, and go there, perhaps to these mines. We can talk more about it. I'll come again, even many times. But about this 3,000 which you have so generously, oh, it would set me free, today if possible. That is, you see, I don't have any time now, not a moment. Enough, Dmitri, enough. Madame Kokolokov interrupted instantly. The question is, are you going to the mines or not? Have you fully decided? Answer mathematically. I'll go, madame, later. I'll go wherever you like, madame, but now. Wait then, cried madame, and jumping up she rushed to her magnificent bureau with numerous little drawers and began pulling out one drawer after another, looking for something and in a terrible hurry. The 3,000, Mitya's heart froze. And just like that, without any papers, without any deed. Oh, but how gentlemanly, a splendid woman, if only she weren't so talkative. Here, Madame Kokolokov cried joyfully, coming back to Mitya. Here is what I was looking for. It was a tiny silver icon on a string, of the kind sometimes worn around the neck together with a cross. It's from Kiev, Dmitri, she continued reverently, from the relics of the great martyr Varvara. Allow me personally to put it around your neck and thereby bless you for a new life and new deeds. And she indeed put the icon around his neck and began tucking it in. Mitya, in great embarrassment, leaned forward and tried to help her, and finally got the past his tie and collar and onto his chest. Now you can go, Madame uttered, solemnly resuming her seat. Madame, I'm so touched. I don't know how to thank for such kindness. But if you know how precious time is to me now, that sum which I am so much expecting from your generosity. Oh, madame, since you are so kind, so touchingly generous to me, Mitya suddenly exclaimed inspiredly. Allow me to reveal to you what you, however, have long known, that I love a certain person here. I have betrayed Katrina Ivanova, I mean. Oh, I was inhuman and dishonorable towards her, but here I have come to love another. A woman you perhaps despise, madame, for you already know everything, but whom I absolutely cannot part with, absolutely, and therefore now this 3,000. Part with everything, Dmitri, Madame Kokolokov interrupted him in the most determined tone. Everything, women specially. Your goal is the mines, and there is no need to take women there. Later, when you return in wealth and glory, you will find a companion for your heart in the highest society. She will be a modern girl, educated and without prejudices. By then, the woman's question, which is just the beginning now, will have ripened, and a new woman will appear. Madame, that's not it. Not it. Dmitri clasped his hands imploringly. That is it, Dmitri. That is precisely what you need, what you thirst for without knowing it. I am no stranger to the present woman question, Dmitri. The development of women and even a political role for women in the nearest future, that is my ideal. I myself have daughter, Dmitri, and few know this side of me. I wrote in this regard to the writer Shchedrin. This writer has shown me so much about the women's vocation that last year I sent him an anonymous letter of 2 lines. I embrace you and kiss you, my writer, for the contemporary woman. Carry on. And I signed it, a mother. I almost wrote a contemporary mother, but I hesitated and then decided just to be a mother. It has a moral beauty, Dmitri, and besides the word contemporary would have reminded him of the contemporary, a bitter recollection for him, owing to his censorship. Oh my God, what's the matter with you? Madame, Mitya jumped up at last, clasping its hand in his helpless supplication. You will make me weep, madame, if you keep putting off what you have so generously. Weep, Dmitri, weep. Such feelings are beautiful, and with such a path before you, tears will ease you. Afterwards you will return and rejoice. You will come galloping to me on purpose from Siberia to rejoice with me. But allow me to, Mitya suddenly yelled, for the last time I implore you. Tell me, am I to have this promised sum from you today? And if not, precisely when should I come for it? What sum, Dmitri? Fedorovitch? The 3,000 you promised, which you so generously... 3,000? You mean rubles? Oh no, I haven't got 3,000. Madame Kokolokov spoke with sort of a quiet surprise. Mitya was stupefied. Then why? Just you said you even said it was as good as in my pocket. Oh no, you misunderstood me, Dmitri. In that case, you misunderstood me. I was talking about the mines. It's true I promised you more, infinitely more than 3,000. I recall it all now. But I was only thinking about the mines. And the money? The 3,000, Dmitri? Exclaimed absurdly. Oh, if you meant money, I don't have it. I don't have any money at all now, Dmitri. Just now I'm fighting with my manager, and the other day I myself borrowed 500 rubles from Musov. No, I have no money, and you know, Dmitri, even if I had, I would not give it to you. First, I never lend to anyone. Lending means quarreling. But to you specially, I would not give anything. Out of love for you, I would not give anything. In order to save you, I would not give anything because you need only one thing. Mines, mines, and mines. Ah, devil take. Mitya suddenly roared and banged his fist on the table with all his might. Hey! Koklakov cried in fear and flew to the other end of the drawing room. Mitya spat and with quick steps walked out of the room, out of the house into the street, into the darkness. He walked like a madman, hitting himself on the chest, on that very place on his chest where he had beaten himself 2 days before with Alyosha, when he had seen him for the last time, in the evening, in the darkness on the road. What this beating on the chest on the spot meant and what he intended to signify by it so far was a secret that no one else in the world knew, which he had not revealed then even to Alyosha. But for him, that secret concealed more than shame. It concealed ruin and suicide. For so he had determined, if he were unable to obtain the 3,000 to pay back Katerina Ivanovna and thereby lift from his chest, from that place on his chest, the shame he carried there, which weighed so heavily on his conscience, all this will be perfectly well explained to the reader later on. But now, after his last hope had disappeared, this man, physically so strong, having gone a few steps from Madame's house, suddenly dissolved in tears like a little child. He walked on, unconsciously wiping his tears away with his fist. Thus he came out into the square and suddenly felt that he had bumped into something with his full weight. He heard the squeaking fall of some little old woman whom he had almost knocked over. Lord, he nearly killed me. What are you stomping around here for? Hooligan? Hooligan? What, is it you? Mitya cried, recognizing the old woman in the darkness. It was the same old serving woman who served Kuzma Samsonov and whom Mitya had noticed only too well the day before. And you? Who are you, my dear? The old woman said in quite a different voice. I can't make you out in the dark. You live at Kuzma Kuzmis. You are a servant there? That's so, my dear. I've just run over to Prokhorovich, but how is it I still don't recognize you? Tell me, Granny, is Agrafena Alexandrovna there now? Mitya asked beside himself with impatience. I took her there some time ago. She was, my dear. She came, she stayed for a while and left. What? Left? Cried Mitya. When? Right then she left. She only stayed for a minute, told Kuzma Kuzmis. Some story made him laugh and ran away. You're lying. Damn you, yelled Mitya. Hey, cried the little old woman. But Mitya's tracks were already cold. He ran as fast as he could to the widow Mirzov's house. It was exactly at the same time that Grushenka drove off to Mokoroy, not more than a quarter an hour after her departure. Fanya was sitting in the kitchen with her grandmother, the cook Matriona, when the captain suddenly ran in. Seeing him, Fanya screamed to high heaven. You are screaming? Mitya yelled. Where is she? And without giving the terror-stricken Fanya time to say a word, he suddenly collapsed at her feet. Fanya, for the sake of our Lord, Jesus Christ, tell me where she is. My dear, I know nothing. Dear Dmitri Fyodorovich, I know nothing. Even if you kill me, I know nothing. Fanya began swearing and crossing herself. You took her yourself. She came back. She didn't, my dear. I swear to God she didn't. You're lying, roared Mitya. I can see by how scared you are. You know where she is." He dashed out. The frightened Fenya was glad to have gotten off so easily, but she knew very well that he simply had no time, otherwise it would have gone so badly for her. But as he ran out, he still surprised both Fenya and old Matryona by a most unexpected act. On the table stood a brass mortar with a pestle in it, a small brass pestle, only 7 inches long. As he was running out, having already opened the door with one hand, Mitya suddenly, without stopping, snatched the pestle from the mortar with his other hand, shoved it into his side pocket, and made off with it. "Oh, Lord!" Fanya clasped her hand. "He'll kill somebody."